Resilience, focus, discipline, courage. Some of the key ingredients in manifesting your vision into a reality. Join me as we delve into what it takes to make your mark.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Make Your Mark Talk Show. My name is Vanessa Spence, and I'll be your host for today's episode. If you haven't already, make sure to follow us on Instagram at makeyourmark.ca, as well as log on every week to our website, www.makeyourmark.ca, for new updates. Today, we are here with Ken Daniel, or Coach Ken, the founder of the Making Hoops High Flyers basketball program. Hello, Ken.
Thank you
for being with us.
For having me here. A great opportunity to give a little information about myself and the things that I do.
That's what we do. And that's why we do this.
Thank you very much for that opportunity.
Thank you for being here. So to get us started, I want to get more of a sense of who you are, where you've come from, how you've made it to where you are today.
Well, I think it started, I came here at 10 years old in 1972 from Grenada. And culture shock, I think, first of all. But coming from a place where 99% everybody looks like you, I don't think people understand how comforting that is.
Right.
I think you don't get some of the same complaints. Like when you come here, it's a mixed match of so many different cultures. And I know, back home, everybody says good morning to you. I think it's a big adjustment when you come to this country and your neighbors don't even say hello.
Right.
So that part of it, I remember just going with my dad to his friends and my mom's friends. So it's always a family. You go to other families. You don't get that here anymore. And so from a 10-year-old coming to this country for a better life and culture shock, but I think there was so much things,
So much opportunity.
Yes, I thought my house was a mansion. We had a one-room house back home and, 5, 6 people sleeping in a room. And I realized my home was so small in comparison to this new environment. And so big adjustment, but I think lots of opportunities and it was a great experience to start off. As I said before, I think one of the things, we went to Black Education Project. I mean, that was one of the first things when we came to Canada. At that time, I think Dudley Laws was in his 20s, tutoring and mentoring. There was also Black Heritage at that time. And we did math, we did martial arts, and it was a social gathering. So you met a lot of other Black people from different islands and got a chance to kind of, ease the culture shock because you had, all of a sudden had Jamaican friends and people from Trinidad and different things. So it was getting acclimated to not to a different culture, but people that look like me.
So what I think is important is, representation. That's kind of what you're getting at is being around people and being able to see things where you are able to see yourself in.
Yeah.
So in Grenada, you had that. For me, I feel like in Grenada and places like Trinidad, Jamaica, representation is not a thing because we're all here. We all look the same. We all have the same sort of upbringing in life. So having the media represent that, it's not something that we had to fight for because it's something that we were born into. But coming here to Canada, to a new environment, you had to fight to be around the people who you felt most comfortable with. Yeah.
But I think the other part, I think we also have to realize, because islands are so small, I think everybody wants to be identified by where they come from. I think as Black people, we are identified by our color. Where everybody else, you're from China, you're Chinese, you're from Africa. And so what happens, I think, our islands are not big enough to give us such a big impact. So we're very small, but it also fragments the West Indies because everybody wants to be identified by that island.
Right.
It doesn't give us the numbers that we need to get the march or whatever it is that we need to get a big group. I think one of the great things I always say about people from Jamaica, no matter what it is, they're also always so very proud to be Jamaican. And I think, our kids here, they're so, well, I'm Jamaican or from the islands, but I say to the kids, I said, learn to own this country, it's yours, because they want to kick you out anyways. Where are your parents from? Well, my parents from here. Well, where's your great-grandparents from? And you never get that when it comes to other ethnic groups.
Right.
A lot of times they're given residence here and not always sent back 2 or 3 generations to where you came from. And so that's the other part I think our kids have to learn to own. I'm from the islands. I'm so very proud. Everybody, people want to go on vacation. But I think the kids for today have to learn to own this because I think they're not given credit for it.
So is it the color of our skin that we should own or where we came from generations ago?
Well, I think because we're identified by our skin color, I think we're the only group. Everybody else get the place of origin. And I think it's a little mix and match in the sense that I think when you're from the islands, I think you own it because that's where you're from. But I think our kids have to learn to own here because this is where we live. The islands they're great, but you get sick. There's different. We don't have all the necessities that we need. We came here for a better life and better opportunity. But I think the things that's sometimes misunderstood is hard work. People think, you go back home on vacation, people think you're made of gold and they want your hat. And I'm a person, I take what I don't want to bring back because my cousin want a hat or they want your shoes. You cannot go back home on vacation. It's not vacation.
Someone's
you go to
always asking
Mexico.
for something.
Yes, go someplace where you could relax because as soon as you go home, you got to meet auntie here and you got to go this way. And this person haven't seen you in this years. And I think when you come back from the islands, you're tired. And so I think that's one of the things we have to, we don't know how to take vacation. We have to learn to go someplace else and enjoy whatever it is that's there. And it's one of the things I think we have to learn.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some more things that you did to kind of acclimate or not acclimate? Because I think that's, because of what you said, I think that's the wrong word, to claim our place on this, in this province. What are some more things that you've done to do that?
Well, a couple of years ago, I went to, from Montreal, went to PEI, New Brunswick. Canada's a big, beautiful country. Bay of Fundy, we went to Anna Green Gables, typical, but I'm saying it's so different. There's you meet so many different people. That's one of the things I think also, this is a big, great country with opportunities. I don't think we use it enough. We don't explore it enough. There's parks and different things. I remember as a kid, my mom said, get out the house, don't come back. Go outside and play. Our kids, as a basketball coach, the muscle development of young people are horrible because they don't go outside and play. They sit home on their phone or on their tablet or sit and watch television. And what happened, the nature of being a human being, walking and running, our kids don't have those muscle development. So they're also uncoordinated.
Right.
And that's some of the problem because we don't, we sit beside each other on the phone. And I sit I sit and watch young people all the time. I'm always in that environment because I coach and I do different things. And the ability to communicate and talk to somebody face to face is not there. And I think it's one of the things that we lack, the ability to communicate when there's duress or there's issues, how to deal with things. We don't have those abilities anymore because we always have a buffer in that phone, they're up in their room and they text you. And I think those are some of the qualities that we have to find different ways to socialize our kids better to deal with issues because they are issues. So
do you think it's more creating a language around that? Because I know for, the more mature generation, how they were raised, how they were brought up, they bring that to their kids. And so it's more of a, I told you to do this, do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. So the kids are trying to get away from that through their phones, through the internet, through their laptops.
Yes, there is a disconnect. I think generationally, the grandparents are not involved. The extended family, there's nobody to hand stuff down to kids. I think one of the problems that happens is when people come to this country, it swallows you up. Everybody wants this culture, while parents try to retain their culture. And some of the things, so the kids try to push themselves away from that. But the process that keeps family together is history. Your friends, I remember watching my mom and her sister and they're laughing about when they're like 5 years old, some of the things that they did. My mom used to love to climb the trees back home. And I'm sitting watching my mom and her sister, and they're laughing. But that's what binds people, history. You know, as Black people sometimes, and the color Black is relative.
Right.
But what happens is some people always think it's a color that binds us, or hair. Those are part of it, but it's our blood. You know, 3 generations, you see somebody like, oh, you look just like, in my country, we say deceased when someone is dead, deceased Alice. So, you know, those are the things that happen. And I think the connection and the distance between people, you know, somebody's in Calgary, one family member, brother,
right.
and somebody, you're from Brampton, I'm from Scarborough. And traffic, you don't even want to go over there. And so those are the things I think that separate us and doesn't connect us enough, because there's distance and there's life.
Right.
And so what life is being lived in the present, and sometimes the exterior people don't get involved in it because they're living too.
Right.
And so your mom is someplace else, and those are the disconnect things that separate us, our kids. And you know, one of the things is Black people, that when we came here, we're considered hard workers. Everybody wanted us to come for whatever reason, domestics and different things. And we had that great reputation. And I find sometimes because we have more, we give our kids more, but in the process, we give them less.
Right.
Right? So they don't want to take the bus. I have kids, if my mom don't drop me to basketball, I'm not coming. And so Michael Spence, who was that, school, great person.
The guy you were telling me about, yeah.
Yeah. No, Chris Spence. So.
Oh, okay.
One of the things he said in the book, the things that made us great was all the things that we had. And now we don't give that to our kids because we have more to give.
Right.
And so the things that made us hard work, determination, getting up in the morning and do all the things that we're supposed to, we gave that to our kids. That was part of the DNA.
So instead of, giving them the physical, which they can get from anywhere, we need to give them the mental, the spiritual.
Yes.
Okay, totally understandable.
Yes.
We're going to take a little break and we will be right back.
From a tender age, I recognized that I was not the average girl. I was always opinionated, outspoken, and for the most part, unapologetic. I was born to lead, to inflict positive change, to serve. I was born a leader. Harnessing this internal drive led me to spearheading several businesses while unlocking potential within large organizations in director roles throughout the city. While on this quest, I discovered my love for people and passion for personal development. Throughout my career, I have mentored hundreds of individuals, both personally and professionally. Channeling my belief of self-care and with an avid love for fitness, daily I nurture my mind, body, and soul, embracing the very act of self-love. I truly do believe that you cannot give what you don't have. With a commitment to living on purpose and within my purpose, my personal mantra is to leave better than I met.
Hello, we are back on the Make Your Mark show, and we're here again with Coach Ken. Thanks
you.
again. So I did want to get into your relationship with failure.
Okay.
What is that relationship with failure, if you have one?
Well, I think failure is it's one of the biggest teachers. I think I use the analogy about basketball. I think when you win all the time, you think you haven't made any mistakes. Failure gives you that chance to rediscover, to say, what do I need to do to make things better? And I think so. It's like falling off a horse. You can't stay there. You have to get up.
Right.
Because if you don't, life passes you by. And it's one of those things in life sometimes, we all fail. It's never about the falling down or making a mistake. It's about dealing with the thing that happened to you, the failure, the mistake, and making an adjustment.
Right.
I see all the time in sports all the time, sports is about learning to fail. You shoot the basket and they say Stephen Curry's a great shooter. and he shoots 40%. That's a failure. Baseball, 300, that's a failure. But it's the best failure out of everybody else.
Right.
That's how they grade the success. But it's learning to fail.
That's a great way to look at it.
You know,
I wasn't
and
looking at it that
you
way.
miss more than you make. People look at Kobe Bryant, and Michael Jordan had a commercial years ago, and it talks about all the great shots he made, and he said, sometimes people don't remember all the misses, and he had more misses.
Wow.
And so every day you live is learning. And everything that you learn today, tomorrow says, I see it differently. And so, I feel every day.
Right. I had a coach in theater school, and we would do a lot of physical theater. So that was, us running for like the whole class, which was an hour, right?
Yeah.
And, people would stop and people would huff and puff, but he would always say running is, you're keeping yourself from falling.
Yes.
That's what running is.
Yes.
Every step is you getting up from that fall.
Yeah.
And when you think about it that way, you're like, well, then I have to keep going.
Yes.
Because I can't be falling flat on my face.
Yeah. But you look at it and you look at children. I think the innocence of discovery. And so that's for a child a process. They get up and they fall. And they learn. And so I think as you get older, sometimes we forget. I think being a parent allows you, that child connects you to memory. Because you become your parents. All the things that you didn't think you listened, it stays in the back of your head. And that's the other thing in life. We do remember, sometimes not the way and when we want to, but it sits there. And there is I think Poland, about people with Alzheimer's who sit back, they go back to their old neighborhood and they videotape it. And then we put the people sit down and sit down in a room and a screen, and they laugh and they remember. So it's sometimes things get stuck in the back because other things come to the front.
Right.
And but failure is part of life.
Oh yeah.
And we don't always embrace it because we want to be perfect.
Right.
And so, but it's learning to deal with failure, and when you have to tell other people it's okay to fail. As a coach, once again,
right.
I tell kids all the time, you have to say, I'm going to make the next one. Even though I miss 100, that's not you stop playing. Analogy, basketball, once again, I tell kids all the time, your practice is your homework. Your game is your exam. The games don't mean anything in the sense, the game only shows what you know.
Right.
But the practice is the most important. That's where you go through the process of 1 + 1 = this. And when the exam and the game comes and this is what your answer is, we have to change once again.
Right.
Failing, learning, rediscovering, it's a process of human evolution, so to speak. And
so is there a time in your life where you failed? You felt like you failed, or you felt like you wanted to give up?
Well, I'll say this. I was a very small kid. I was 4'11" in grade 9. I was one of the smallest kids in the school when I went there. And I wanted to play sports, but everybody was so much bigger than I was. And I find myself being put back. I used to play, I studied classical music in the conservatory. My brother played the trumpet. I played the guitar, and I love music. And I played chess. And I was supposed to be a nerd. But in grade 10, I grew to 5'8". And I had muscles.
To jump, yeah.
And everybody wanted to know what happened to me. I didn't know what happened to me. The girls came. And then I had control of my body. I could jump. I was strong. I was fast. And the mistakes I made, I quit playing music. And I didn't want to play chess anymore. And I was popular and I wanted to be in the group and hang out with everybody else. My schoolwork suffered. From grade 8 to grade 9, I went to a vocational school. So I was supposed to go to Runnymede. I was a very good student.
Right.
But sometimes the system fails us. And they herd, the kids like cattle into one set of schools and said that we're not capable of learning. So I remember my guidance counselor said, I think you'd be a good mechanic. And so My mom always apologized because she didn't know better.
Right.
Because they trusted the school, the islands. You get your licks when you don't listen, and people think people cared. And so they trusted the system. We came from that British system, and we didn't understand that sometimes people don't care. They do the job.
Right.
And they don't care about us. And so I think for that part, it was a downward spiral. I became this great athlete. But in the schoolwork, that was the failure. I had to readjust. I graduated from high school, being this great athlete. And those days, no big scholarship, there was just a couple. And I went to work at a cheese factory. It was called Anus Milk. I used to make Greek cheese, califaturi. I remember the name, feta cheese. And when you get on the bus, you got your own section because you stink. The Greek cheese, it needs to have slime, old age.
Something to bind it.
Yeah. When it ages, it needs to see a little green stuff on there. That's good cheese because it's aged properly. But it smelled bad. And I realized I was going home one day, and the bus, had my pass. Everybody's given the pass. And he said, take it out of the TTC thing that they had. I said, everybody's showing you the pass. It was a big issue. He said, well, get off the bus. I said, I'm not getting off. I showed you my pass. Big argument. They called the police. He didn't even I had my pass. He said, I don't want you in the bus. That changed my life.
Right.
And I decided, you know what? I wanted to go to college. And I decided I wanted to go to college. I was a very good basketball player. I had a lot of friends once again. And I was Canadian College Athlete of the Week. I scored a great number of points. And the next game I played, I jumped and somebody undercut me and I ripped both groins. They took me to the hospital. And I was on crutches. And that changed my life.
Because everything just went away in an instant.
Because basketball was no longer the most important thing to me. And so the season was done. I went back to college, but I never played basketball again. I was 24 years old.
Wow.
And I was big, I was strong, and I tell people all the time when I see these young men, I know what it feels like to wake up in the morning and feel invincible. And some people don't understand what that means. I was strong, and I felt powerful, and I had no fear. Because I didn't think anybody could beat me. Right. And I think as you go older, we're flesh and bones, and we can die. And I see myself in those kids.
Right. I think it's very important that you brought that up because we always think that our body's going to be there for us.
Yes.
Even though, we're in our youth, we're only seeing, maybe 2 years down the line, and you think, my body's going to uphold. My body's going to do what it needs to do to take me to where I wish to go, to where I want to go.
Yeah.
But when you wake up one day, or like you, just in the middle of a basketball game, and your body just gives out, where do you go from there?
Well, I had surgery in both knees. And I tell people I'm 5'10", 5'10 and a half. I could put my elbow on a 10-foot basket. People call me a freak of nature. But I was saying earlier, I had 29-inch legs without ever lifting weights. I had massive calves. And genetics are so important because it's passed down once again through the blood.
Right.
And I didn't earn any of those things, but I got all these accolades for being this big, strong, muscular person. And they cut the head off me. And so I see it in the young kids. If you follow basketball, the freak of nature now is Zion Williamson. His body has nothing to do with him. From the time he's been, LeBron James, the same thing. 6'9" at 17 years old, 18 years old. I remember playing Chris Webber. He's like 6'10" at 15 when he came to Toronto. Massive hands. They have done nothing to earn it. And so the other part of life is we have to teach kids to claim above their shoulders.
That is where I'm going to stop you. Because we'll get into that in the next segment.
All right.
We're going to take a small break. See you in a bit. Hello, welcome back. We are here on the Make Your Mark Talk Show with Coach Ken. So you were talking about, in the last segment, you were talking about below the neck.
Yes.
What we were born with, what we were given through our blood. But talk about above the neck.
Well, one of when we talk sports in general, I think they fooled us and put the athletic ability above everything else. So what they do a lot of times, and when I say they, I mean the system itself. You know, we have all different people, black, white, Indian. When we say they, it's the system itself. So we're not just saying one group of people. But the system does, especially for the young black athlete, is he says, I don't have to teach you because you're so athletic. So go out there and play. And what happens is you fail at your level of incompetence. So we see guys, superior athletes, they dominate in college until they get to where everybody's just as good as them.
Right.
Then they fail because they don't have anything else. There's something else as a brain that never gets tired, that's able to make adjustments and do all the things. That's why coaches are here, because they have to teach you.
Right.
When you cannot learn and absorb, you fail. And so it's like having a kid win $1 million. He's still poor, he just has $1 million.
Right, he still has that poor
yes.
mind, yeah.
Wealth is the ability to think. And so you go, I'm going through Atlanta, or you go to New York the old days, they have a Lincoln and they live in a shed. Because what the value is it's material. Nobody, whatever you put inside your brain, nobody can take away. And I remember a friend of mine, Tony Sebs, used to play for the Canadian Olympic team years ago. And he always said, Ken, nobody can take away your program because it's in your head. And so we have to retrain and teach our kids. The great physical gifts that we have is a resource, just like a hammer and a nail to build a house. It's not the structure. The brain is the structure. The brain is the foundation. When it comes to sports, and I used to have 19 teams when I run my basketball. We had rep teams. We go all over the States and all over Ontario. And I coached George Brown College as an assistant coach for 1 year. When our kids come to college, they're not good basketball players. Once again, they're good athletes. We're in a place of higher learning, right? And the difference is when you leave high school, the capacity to learn, that's what university, and it tells you have the capacity to learn more. They don't jump on you all the time like in high school. To force feed you, you don't show up, they got your money, they don't care. And so that's the other part we have to change and tell our kids and the young people, learn to use your brain first. In school, and I said before, one of the greatest things that ever happened to the school system was when they told the kids, you have to maintain a certain average in order to play.
That's what happened to me, yeah.
And it forced our kids to learn. And I remember I had a student, I'll use his name, Danny Hugh Lawrence. He's a social worker in Calgary in the school system. He went to a school in Malvern. Used to call him dumb. And then he went to Mother Teresa. And he graduated from high school, and we call these kids stupid. He got a scholarship. 5 years later, he says, Coach, I graduated. He's a social worker. He's 6'4", fabulous young man. I'm so proud of. And he said, Coach, I have benefits. I have all these things that I never ever dreamed of because basketball allowed me to. He's in the house. He said, I walk down Calgary and I hear somebody go, I don't turn around because I'm doing things the right way. And I tell kids, there's nothing wrong with getting up every morning and going to work. It's not a failure. It's 99% everybody. And so sometimes we put all the eggs in that basket about playing sports. Less than 1% play, but our system glorifies those people.
Right.
We see the Kobe and we don't see the failures. But when we look at failure and we understand what failure is, not making it. It's just another way of living your life. And so that's where the brain once again comes in to understand that if there's a roadblock here, you have to be able to think and say, I'm going to go this way. But what happens sometimes, or kids sometimes, when they don't think properly, they're stuck at that door. Getting older, thinking, fighting for that dream, and there's another stream to go. And so that's the other part. I teach my I start as young as 4. They have to learn to pay attention. They have to learn to follow instruction, and they have to learn to listen. So from a very young age, 4 and 5, I have kids and, we have parents interaction all the time. And I remember having a 5-year-old tell his dad, no, that's not how Coach Ken said to shoot the ball. They can't shoot it. But they know what the difference is because it's already inside their head.
Right.
And so the teaching, and I tell parents, allow your kids to learn. We teach them very young. They can't do it. It's okay. As soon as they're able to, it's already there, right? And so when you look at sports, and as I say, I use basketball, usually all the great shooters are white folks, white athletes.
Why is that?
Because they teach them. The young
They teach them the technique.
The young athlete is go run and jump and dunk and be a great defender. Stephen Curry is a freak of nature.
That's what I say.
And so, but not really, because his dad was a player. Michael Thompson, the other Thompson, his dad was a player. Of all the things I could play, I was a freak athlete. I could shoot the ball because I practiced. And so they glorified athletic, the slam dunk campus. Everybody said that's fantastic. See, Kevin Durant just got hurt.
Yes, yeah.
You know what his saving grace is? And he'll still be able to play because he can shoot. And because he's 6'11". So if a young person who's 6'1" rips his Achilles, at that level, basketball is a tall person game that a short person can play, but he needs to have certain skills to be able to play. Right. So you need to have quickness, smarts, and all those other things. Look at Kyle Lowry. He's a great player, but he has great aptitude and stuff for him to be able to compete. The game is easy for Kevin Durant. He's 7 feet. The game is played up here. What he lost in his leg is to be able to play because he could shoot. Right? But the ability to think and practice. So the kid who's not as athletic, they're going to put him in a corner and said, in order for you to compete, we want you to work on shooting. The black kids don't get that because they're so athletic.
Right.
And Paul Jones said that once. He said, the worst thing that ever happened to black kids, and when we mean worst things sometimes, is his great athletic ability. Because now you don't teach him. And then they say, well, you can't play team sports because you run around all the time and you don't have structure. Because our kids, they're out in the street playing. Economics, basketball's become very expensive. Thousands of dollars for the gym. And I tell my students, a coach's first responsibility is not to you. It's to his team. So if you're 6'1", and you're the tallest kid in his team, he's going to put you in a position where the tallest kid plays, but your skill doesn't improve because you play with your back to the basket. But somewhere along the line, you also have to invest in yourself so your skill get better. That if you don't grow, you're going to have other skills to help you. What happened to a lot of kids, they don't grow. They can't play anymore because they're too small for the position that they want to play. And so those are the things in teaching, on understanding where a coach's responsibility is. Everybody think the coach loves me. No, he might think you're a great player, but he has to look at the whole team. And so other kids, sometimes they don't get all the extra help they need to learn to shoot the basketball, to think. And I say it all the time, movement creates confusion. And you look at Stephen Curry, you look how they play, it's movement.
Right.
When you move around a lot, somebody's going to make a mistake. If you're smart enough and aware, when they make a mistake, you capitalize. We don't teach that to our kids. We say, go out there.
Wow.
And so that's how I teach. I want you to learn to dribble. I want you to shoot. I want you to learn to set a pick. I want you to understand about spacing. When you have space, you have lanes to go. We have guys at the NBA level, somebody say they go there. There's no space.
Right.
So that one guy covers 2 people. We clog up everything. And at that level, that's why they fail, because they don't understand and nobody teaches them. With all the money that you have, invest in someone to help you so you get better. You practice 2 hours a day. You go to sleep, you get your meals. I have a young man playing in France. He said, Coach, not in my wildest dreams. He's been all over the world. In my wildest dream that I ever imagined, this would be my life. Because he could bounce a basketball. He has a degree in economics from University of Windsor. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. because he listened, he paid attention, and he followed instructions.
Right. So just understanding that even though we are gifted, we are very talented, that's not the end of the road. You know, we can, play great basketball, we can run very fast, we can do these things, but our mind helps us go that much further.
Yes, and I use another analogy in the sense that a great physical specimen with a great brain. So you take that great body and you put a great brain inside there. Cultivate that brain inside that great body. And when you play sports, when you're in shape, my God, the rush that you get, anything you think of, it comes like this because the system works perfectly.
Right.
And so what happens a lot of time, there's one lacking. A lot of time, the white athlete, because they tend to teach them more for them. In order for them to compete, they need to bring something to the table. What did they bring? They were always a quarterback. Why? Because that was the smartest position. They weren't the best athletes.
Right.
But you take a great athlete and you teach him properly, it changes everything. Because now he has the use of everything. Tom Brady.
That we have our mind and body working together
yes.
to create something larger than ourselves.
Without question.
Wonderful.
And so those are the things I think we have to start looking at things differently, because I think, we eating at the table and they take a lot of stuff away from us. They're giving us, as a West Indian, we want the rice and peas.
We want the 3 types of meat.
Yes, and we want all those starches and stuff like that. You know what? As you get older, you realize that stuff kills us.
So I am going to stop you there,
okay.
But we will be right back after this short break.
It took a lot to get to this place, to feel comfortable to wear my own hair. It took a lot of reflection and coaching and support from the team here, and of course my family. I know my husband really was looking forward to this experience of me exposing my hair, but I was afraid. I won't lie, I was afraid. I didn't know how it would come out. I had been so used to wearing units that I couldn't imagine myself exposed with such a short cut, my jawline and everything just kind of out there. But all in all, I have to say it was definitely a freeing experience, and I'm so grateful for it. And I definitely would recommend it to anyone who has that self-doubt or that unsurety about exposing natural hair. I definitely would take that chance.
Hello, and we are back with Coach Ken. You have been giving us some life for this, the past however many minutes of this interview, and just thank you, because we need this truth. We need that. And you're doing that also by what you do for the community. So with your basketball program for youth, you said you're focusing on youth now.
Yes.
You do men workshops, and also you do a writing workshop for youth as well.
Yeah.
So how are you putting what you've learned into those community initiatives?
Well, I've always written poetry. One of the big mistakes I made earlier was stop playing music. Because I've always written, and I think that would have been a good fusion with the music and writing.
Right, because it's a great way to express yourself, really, really explore your thoughts and what you're thinking.
And I think, basketball, I was always, after I got hurt, I realized teaching. I still love the game and have a passion for it. And I see a lot of our young kids, it's one of the games that they play. And I think with the knowledge and understanding I have of the game, I could use basketball as a tool to coach, to teach, to mentor. And it's just to spread out into different tentacles to be able to do different things. So I started a men's group in Malvern years ago. And it's not as, it's kind of died down. But I took over, went over to Young Street Mission. We have a man-to-man's group. And we have newcomers, a culture shock once again. The rules have changed when it comes to family and relationship with men in this culture. Understanding that the rules have changed in the sense that you can't yell. It's called verbal assault. It's just as bad as if you hit somebody.
Right.
the role of a man, we live in a society where things are a little more equal. So sometimes we come from places where it's a very male-dominant society, and you come here and you think you can do the same thing. You can't do that. So your wife, your partner, they have rights. And so you can't be overbearing and be that big dominant person in the household. This country will not allow you to do those things. So we teach and make them understand what the laws and the rules are and how them cope. As I said, I've been here well over 40 years. I've had, I have living experience, and living experience means, I've experienced it.
Right.
I'm able to transpose some of those things and information to people. I also, I used to run a basketball program, and I still do in a degree, but once again, my poetry comes into play. Our kids are smart. They have great memories. I write poetry. I don't retain poetry, so I have to write it down. I don't have that particular, I could write it like this, but to go up there and memorize it and read it, I can't do that.
That's the next step?
That's the next step. But I see the kids, they know the music, every song. And so we say to them, use it. Create your own words. I always say, words like the air that we breathe is there for us to take and use it as we choose.
Right.
And so the kids are excited about being able to put music to their own words and experience. And their eyes light up. And I say all the time, kids, they want to talk. I think sometimes we don't have enough time. I think, and we think they don't have time. But as a coach, they want to talk about I know their dreams and all their aspirations, all the things that they want to do, because I listen. And people always say, like, Coach, how do you know kids that need help? I don't interfere. So kids are playing. I don't run and fix mistakes. I stand aside and watch. You see, when you're not confident, you find a place to hide in front of everybody, and people don't. So you're no longer engaged, right? You're playing, but you push yourself away from what happens.
Right.
Those are how you tell what kids that need the help. The kids who hogging the ball or grabbing the ball engaged, they're comfortable, but you have kids who they don't think they're as good. And sometimes the kids who are very selfish at that young age, they pass the ball to the kids they think are the best players. But you also have to include the kids who are not as good,
right,
and give them that confidence, because sometimes they end up being the better players. We call them late bloomers. I sat for about 4 or 5 years, Healthy Childhood Development for Basketball Ontario, about 2010, around there. And one of the things that happened, it tells you, if you take a kid who's never skateboarded, been on a skateboard, don't teach them, throw them in the park, within an hour they could skateboard.
Because they can't have eyes watching them.
There you go.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, yeah.
But then there's no pressure. They fail and they get up and get back on the board. I think sometimes we are the cause of failure because we stop things. We see a kid falling, grab him. And so the tendency with good intentions, we don't allow kids to have any scabs.
Right.
Out of love, and I tell parents all the time, when you come in my gym, I'm the boss. I don't want you to be a parent. Because parent, oh, he's not happy. I said, leave him alone. Last week we had a problem with, we were warming up. A kid came in and he had a ball. And we did all the stretches and exercises. And then someone else took the ball. And he went and sat beside his mom. And he's crying. Oh, and then Timmy took my ball. And I said to Mom, you cannot allow him not to have fun in a place that he wants to have fun. You cannot allow him to sit here. And I said to him, why don't you go ask him? I had the ball first. And I said, if he says no, I said, get another ball. I said, things don't always work the way that you want it to work.
Right.
Those are things kids have to learn, that we have to make adjustments, we have to learn to make changes. And if you ask nicely and he said, no, it's my ball, then it's his ball. Get another ball. Don't stop and say, I'm going to sit here and be mad, and don't enjoy the things that you like the most.
Right.
And he came back and he's smiling and he hit a basket and he said, Coach Ken, I said, give me 5. I said, did you have fun? I said, did you ask him? Yes. And he said, give him the ball. But our kids don't, once again, it comes back to communication. And so my interaction with basketball and poetry and conversation, you know, and sometimes they tell you what happens in their home. Some days as a coach, you know, I have a thing in the morning. First thing I say when basketball starts, everybody had breakfast. And if you didn't have breakfast, sorry, don't tell me. Because you're supposed to have breakfast. Right. Because that's energy to help you participate in sports. And so, you know, you find out a lot of things because the other part is kids trust you. And kids are very smart. They have great senses. As you get older, we get jaded. Our sense of belief and trust is going because life experience tells us you can't trust everybody. Right. But when you're young, that innocence, and you can tell who cares about you. And so you also have to be that person when you look in a child's eyes, they know that you mean what you say. But it's also saying that I think it's important for us to always be there to monitor our kids because the other part of it, people who are not so nice will also put themselves in those positions. Right. And I say this to parents, I say, you don't know who I am. Stay and watch your kids. That's not my job.
Yes, and I really want to get into that. Even though, you know, you're bringing your kids to a program, being there to actually watch them, you know, experience that. How can that help them?
Well, I always say when a kid scores a basket, the first person they look for is that parents to see I've accomplished something. And so I have parents running, giving kids high five, taking videos. And I also I tell parents, come and participate. I have parents who have gotten better, practice with their kids, but also want parents to learn what to look for. You know, how do you shoot the ball properly? Is he paying attention? Is he learning or is she learning? So those parental involvement and not just going and doing your hair, be there as a support and not, how was your practice? You have a conversation, you know, Tim or Roy, a nice basket. You were there, you were a witness, and you're not always that parent, but you're also a participant with that parent. Right. Visually, emotionally, you were in the program. And so, you know, we say, go get some water. Kids run and hug their parents. You know, I want parents to have a relationship with their kids. I don't think it's important. I don't think coaches should have that, you know, because we give it to them. Don't give up your right as a parent to the coach. Be there, you know. I'm in a position a lot of times where a parent need the kids to do something. Coach, make sure, I think one of the most important things is everybody cleans their room. That's part of my program. We get that done. And Coach Ken, don't let me hear you not clean your room. Yes, Coach Ken. You know what I'm saying? So
right. I think that's very important because we always depend on, you know, programs like yours or the school system to put some discipline into the kids. But what we don't understand is that it starts at home. Everything starts at home. So when it's eating breakfast, when it's making your bed in the morning, when it's cleaning your room at least every week, you know, it's those things that help them on the basketball court, that help them in school, that help them in their extracurriculars, right?
Yeah. And I think, you know, we are also, you know, people who work in the community, we here like an extra hand. You know, when you grow up in the islands, you know, you can't be rude to Miss Mary down the street because she thrown two bucks on you and then you get when you go home. You know, in this country, we call it abuse. So, but I know you have to have respect. You can't walk by the neighbor and not say good morning. Because when you get home, you know, back then the grandmother and everybody else is saying, I heard you were rude. You know, so just respect. But I'm there, that extra hand to help. I always say, I will help lift them if they want to, if they're going to help themselves, but I can't lift them up by myself. Right. And so we want parents to be more engaged in what happened to their kids. And when people retire and they want to be parents, it's too late. You know, the kids, as soon as they're ready to jump in the door, they're ready to go. And so the young years, the years when the kids are impressionable and they need assistance, be there. Because that time is short. You know, once the kids get off and go to university and they get that independence, they're not going back home. You know, so that window is very short. And that's some of the things I try to encourage parents. Be there when they're young. Make it not abnormal. And when parents have time and, you know, you want to sit down and engage we can't say kids, the adults. You know, when the kid takes the bus all the time and the parents are not there, and when the parents have time, they want to be parents.
Right. Okay, so if you had one sentence to give to the kids and the parents about really instilling discipline and things like that, and to give them a better future, what would that one sentence be?
Well, communication. You know, one of the big problems that happen, parents forget they were parents. They were kids. And so I tell that to parents all the time. I'm not going to kill my kid for making a mistake. We want our kids to be perfect, and we are imperfect. And so because we want them to do so well, I think we put an unfair burden on kids to not make the same mistake that we make every day.
Right.
And so those are the things we have to learn to let our kids fall.
Right.
We have to learn to let them make mistakes. We made them, and we're here.
Right.
But we don't want our kids to make any mistakes.
Right.
And so those are the communication.
Communication, storytelling,
yes.
really, you know, passing on those experiences so they know how it looks when they're there and they know how to deal with it to move forward. Right.
Yeah.
So that's amazing, Coach Ken. Thank you so much for everything that you have given us in this hour of great conversation, great experiences. I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for being with us.
I want to thank you. And I think programs like this, it's very important because it's grassroots. I think that's important. But also, once again, information is so important that people see us. You know, we're not from Mars, and, you know, we're not the news every day, all the bad things that happen. Bad things happen in every community. So thank you for allowing me your time and my time to spend a little time with you. So once again, thank you very much.
Is there anywhere we can find you, maybe on social media?
Not really on that social, you know, I run my program in Malvern. I run it through my church.
Okay.
You know, I'm okay. You know, my program is hands-on. So, you know, all that big information, I'm okay.
People find you when they need you.
They'll find me.
That kind of thing.
Word of mouth, you know,
totally
I'm not that guy they'll find me. I have them from Brampton to Oshawa. And word of mouth, they'll find me.
All right. Thank you so much, Coach Ken.
Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you guys next week.